So I'd like to explain to you today a little known strategy called the Holy Trinity real estate. Now, so a little bit of a backstory. Gabby and I, when we started our investing journeys, we bought the wrong property in the wrong place at the wrong time, which obviously didn't work out that well. But it was an amazing thing because it was a catalyst for change and it led us to where we are today. Part of that journey though was trying to understand how could we build a property portfolio that would self-perpetuate, would replace our income over time, and would be able to weather any of the economic and political storms that were outside of our control. So as we started working through all these different ideas and strategies and concepts, we essentially bolted together this 3-pillar strategy, which we now call the Holy Trinity. Now that strategy is based on cash flow positive properties in high growth areas with value add potential. Now, when we're doing this isn't a sometimes, maybe, sort of, kinda, and this is something that you can apply in your own journey if you can understand how these concepts work together. So there are 3 parts and there must always be 3 parts. The way I like to think about it is, if you're sitting on a stool, a 3-legged stool, and you take out one leg, it's a very high chance you're going to fall over. And it's the same thing here. So by having positive cash flow, working with capital growth and with value add potential, it's going to give you a robust and resilient strategy that you can repeat over and over. So the first piece of the equation there is to make sure that you're investing in areas with strong capital growth. Now, there's a lot to unpack there because we don't want to look at historical capital growth, we need to look at future capital growth. So there's a lot of key indicators around that, and it's probably a little bit more than we've got time to go into now. But the key thing is you need to make sure you're getting the capital growth or you're capturing equity, because without that piece, you're going to get stuck. And it means that every time you're going to want to buy another property, you're going to need to save up for the deposit and start again from scratch. So we want the properties to be able to buy themselves. Okay, this is key. So then the next part of that is, let's say you get growth. If you don't have cash flow, you're going to get tapped out on your serviceability, which means that loan 1, you can maybe afford it based on your salary. Then loan 2, maybe you can afford that as well based on your salary, but unless the property is covering all of its own debt, all of its own expenses, and then putting some more money in your bank account, then you're essentially reducing your serviceable income every single time. So what we want to do is we want to be topping that up. Every property needs to be self-contained. It needs to be able to cover not only all of its own costs, but it needs to also be able to liquidate some of the equity that we've made sure we're buying in the right place at the right time so that it can self-fund. And once it can do that, it can release its own capital and allow you to leapfrog into the next property. Now, this isn't an exact science, but there is a process and some balance that you need to find there. So they're the key things, those 2 components together. Essentially, if you can get those 2 right, you will be able to continue to keep growing. However, the biggest thing that stops people growing a property portfolio is not just whether they're buying the right place at the right time, but it's also external forces, stuff like politics and the economy. They're the 2 biggest things. That's what dictates market forces, and that's why you see property prices going up and down. So how can you control the uncontrollable? Well, that's where the 3rd pillar comes in, and that's the value add potential. Now, the reason this is so great is because cash flow and growth, they're the key components. So you really want to be able to make sure you can control that cash flow, control that growth, use it when it's going to suit you in a way that's going to suit you for your strategy at the right time. It's like being able to pull a mechanical lever and being able to decide what your wealth creation story looks like and when, and how fast you want to accelerate and why. So the key value add strategies to look for is like under market value, renovations, subdivisions, granny flats, boarding houses. These are things that you can do to manufacture more cash flow, manufacture more growth. So that way it's going to give you the liquidity to continue to grow your portfolio. So now this is kind of it's like a life jacket, having that in your portfolio. Now, once you can find properties that can do all 3 of those things, so positive cash flow, high growth, and they've got a relevant value add strategy attached to them, you know that you found the Holy Trinity and you know that it's time to move.